Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm the co-host Scott.
And I'm host Eric.
And today we are going to be covering chapters 26 through 30 of Death Lord Arcanist. We do encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, share any feedback you have. It definitely helps a lot. We also want to thank everyone for listening, and we do want to mention that the wiki for the Frith Chronicles Chronicles is down below in the description. We've also included links to the Capital Station Discord for other Share Me content. And with that, we will jump right into that with chapter 26.
And I do apologize about the sound of the chicks in the background. So chapter 26, Rot Blossoms, and we are in the town of the Waxing City, for the lack of a better phrase. It is a shithole. I did have to do a double take because this is the same city that the prefecture bouts of the Crown Tournament takes place in, and actually I had one of those epiphany moments of, oh my gosh, this is the same place. Something seriously has happened to this place since the Crown Tournament, obviously, and this is basically just a rundown town that nobody else is living in. Either you're a soldier or you basically are owned by Lord Oto. We have rot blossoms that exude a foul odor akin to death and attract flies to keep them out of buildings. These are basically lined outside of Razza's house. And we realize how poor that Razza had grown up in, and that, Greg kind of has that moment of realization that maybe he didn't have that bad as a candlemaker's son growing up in Island Halen. We start to realize that Razza is being blackmailed to gather information while at Astor Academy. And Gray really doesn't want to pity him, but we realize that Razza is not wanting pity, but to get stronger so that he's able to fight off those that used to blackmail him. Deimos explains that these rot blossoms are actually a sacred plant, and that they actually only smell like death if somebody around them is dying or about to die. And we realize that we realistically need to go back to get Razza because, we didn't just take him with us the first time or the second time. So we are now going to go back into Lord Oto's compound to retrieve Razza and bring his family to the academy so that Lord Oto can no longer blackmail him.
Hatred that Deimos' father, because his father did kill his mother. Deimos kind of has this soft spot for anything that's mother related or mother adjacent. Gray does also sense this new thread of very powerful magic, so it's not a thread that he's sensed before. Very unique, very strong. Ashlyn ends up dropping a comment that she pretty much told Ekrib that he needs to be better friends with Wayne. So very similar. Ashlyn is pushing the Eldrin to be better. She's kind of on the same track as Gray in that regard.
I want to say that the image of Ekrib putting Twain up on top of his head to walk around with is just adorable to me. And if there's one image that I would love absolutely to see is this. Ekrib walking around with Twain on his head.
So cute. They do sneak back in and find Razza. Razza, of course, hasn't moved. He's still asleep, and slap him. He's magically asleep, though, so this doesn't wake him up. But they do have to end up using the soul catcher to wake him up. But then once they do, they find out that the Arcanist who is here is actually very well respected by a true form Arcanist. So whatever it is, extremely powerful, extremely well respected. There is a lot of lightning in the air, which is very dangerous. This Arcanist starts to trigger his aura, and we find out that this Arcanist and the bounty hunter that was likely sent to retrieve children is one and the same.
This is where chapter 28, the Source of the Storm, picks up. And I just gotta say, they should not have come back for Razza. They should have, either grabbed him the second time they went back, or they should have just left his ass. One or the other. Gray goes to open the door, gets zapped by the handle because of all the static electricity in the air. And I think this is a pretty solid time to go ahead and turn yourself into a Typhoon Dragon Arcanist so that you don't get electrocuted. Deimos says that this is a former God Arcanist that is there, and that is the Bounty Hunter. And there's that Who is it? Which former god Arcanist are we talking about here? You know, 7 were resurrected by the true form Phoenix. We do know that it is, in fact, not Volk for sure. And it is revealed to us that Lucian Nellit, the Dauntless, is, in fact, the source of the storm. And Lucian finds it very revolting to Deimos. Deimos finds it very revolting to hurt or try to graft the soul of Guard Arcanist onto him. He views their souls as special, better, whatever way you want to phrase it, but they are off limits. And their souls go to the Spire of Gods in the Hells. And we find out the source of the storm is a unique creature because it is a 9-pointed star.
Chapter 29 is Death Lord of Deception. Lucian carries a lot of knives. They're like, he has probably 10 knives that you can see. Who knows how many that are hidden in boots and other crevices. He was in fact assigned to figure out how they went missing. Gray lies and says Razza, who's not technically missing, is Novak. He's trying to convince Lucian that they pretty much have everyone they need and they can go back to the academy. Lucian does tell Oto that he's going to come back and investigate the Waxing City. This is obviously not well run or humane in any regard, so it seems like outside of his bounty hunter duties, he's still kind of secondhand heroing out and about. We do also get to see an introduction to the source of the storm. So all of this lightning, electricity, what you can only imagine is probably coming from Zapdos, is actually coming from a hummingbird. A very cute hummingbird, but it's a hummingbird.
Was not expecting that at all.
I was not either. Lucian does know that Gray lied because he's like, these Eldrin don't match up, and because of that, I actually think that Gray is Zapdos. So with this, he starts to go into attack mode. The source of the storm, which again is this tiny, tiny little hummingbird, drills into his body and comes out as giant wings instead. So he can kind of morph in the same way that you would with a Nightmare or a Reaper.
Except the Eldrin is going into him, not the other way around.
Yes, and it's just a little creepy. I picture this thing just doing a little like,
I think the book describes it going into the side of his neck, so it's just even creepier looking.
yes. Plane does catch on, and so, there's a lot of lightning here. I am going to be a Typhoon Dragon. And even more, as Lucian and the Source of the Storm are now morphed into one, there just is growing amounts of electricity everywhere.
And in chapter 30, Collateral Damage, we start out fighting in the hallway. And again, we should definitely not have gone back for Razza, or at least gone back to the compound for a third time. Gray is doing a fairly good job at adapting to the situation by changing Twain as he needs to, and he's turning Twain into Blue Phoenix to be immune to fire when he needs to. He's switching back to the Typhoon Dragon to become immune to lightning when he needs to. Doing a very good job at adjusting and staying fluid with this battle. I will say Lucian is an absolute and total badass and is transforming essentially into a massive bird while exuding this giant cloud of mist that you can't see through. And Lucian is very adamant about not letting the Death Lords in the land of the living, regardless of how much or who they are. And Deimos does try to get through to Lucian by saying that Lucian's master would not be happy with what he's become, and that Lucian is full of tenacity but with little wisdom. And I feel like that's a very subtle way of saying you're an idiot.
But you're an idiot.
But that ends this week's sections of 26 through 30 with Death Lord Arcanist. I do also want to make mention that in about 2 months, the book that Shami has releasing is the hero called Doberman. She's explained it as a lit RPG, and this is a work between her and John, so this is going to be kind of a mesh of both their writings. And definitely super excited to be reading that. Definitely excited for it to come out in June. Hey. All right, with that, Scott, did you have anything else you'd like to add today? All right, with that, we want to thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.